Now tuning in to Earbud Media. Audio for everyone.
Well, here's what I'll say. I left that movie last night in tears, and I was not expecting that. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, happy tears, but also, like, too real tears. So,
Right.
I just wanted to go in being like, damn, Dakota's embarrassing, and that was not what I got, so.
Right. It'll be a fun movie,
Anyway.
they said. It'll be fun.
It'll be fun. It'll be great. It'll be just a good goof and laugh, and that was not what I got. Anyways, welcome into the Twilight.
Woo.
We're so glad that you're here. I am so unbelievably excited to have, and I know that I've said this for several weeks now, shut the fuck up, to have an unbelievable expert on this podcast who's not only Twitter, but just a triple threat of a TikTok and an Instagram that I admire.
Yeah.
And I am so glad to have you on the show. And I'm trying to keep it cool and, like, professional and stuff, but I'm actually, like, very excited to have you. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my god.
Literally, when Allie was, like, coming up with guests and stuff and brought your name up, I was like, oh my god, starstruck. Like, oh my god.
Thank you. I'm so flattered.
Nobody cuts an egg like you do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just...
Yes. For anyone that truly has the audacity to not know who you are and what you do across the internet, could you introduce yourself? Tell everyone who you are and everything that you do.
Yeah, totally. I'm Bettina Makalintal, and, like, my official thing is that I'm a reporter at Eater, but I'm also just, like, very much an internet person, and so, yeah, I'm just, like, a chronic poster, but also a food writer.
Yeah.
Bettina. The things that you post on both Instagram and TikTok are unbelievably aesthetic.
Yes.
And I feel like
Yeah.
I know that you're like, oh, it's actually just vibes, like I'm not posting recipes. But I feel like if I had seen your content like 10 years ago on Tumblr, I would have made like a food blog.
Oh, thank you. I feel like my main goal is I feel like I'm, like, trying to be, like, the like, internet person I always wanted to be when I was a teenager, you know? Because I feel like I was always very online. And I was, like, seeing all these other people and being like, oh, that's, like, a cool internet person. And now I'm just trying to, like, do the cool things online.
Yes.
Oh, that's some real inner teen healing right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like, think about, like, my, like, 13-year-old self on MySpace being like, wow, I'm so jealous of these people who have, like all these internet friends. And now I'm like, oh, I'm an adult with internet friends.
Yes.
I love it. You all listening to this Twilight podcast in the year of our Lord 2022 can be the internet person that your teen dreamed that you were.
Yeah.
Says Bettina.
Anything's possible.
Yeah, exactly.
This is amazing. There's unfortunately not a lot of food. There's a little bit of food in the movie that we're talking about today. But I will say that taking a look more deeply into the fantastic work that you have done made me very hungry at like 7 a.m. this morning, which was criminal. But it's all good. It is not your fault. It is but mine. One of the things that we try to do with usually the really fucked up and nasty content that we cover on this show, a la Twilight, 50 Shades, things like that. So we like to check in and say, hey, before we get into this, how you doing? What's a happy thing that's happened to you recently? Could you start us off?
Yeah, totally. So I think my main thing is like, it's a long weekend. I'm really stoked on that. But I think just like the main happy thing is like I went to the beach yesterday and it somehow felt very like vacation vibes, even though it was just like took the train out in New York and like, still really not that far from home. But yeah, I like got a little sunburn. I got a little drunk on the beach. It was really nice.
It is amazing to me that you can live in a world where you can take a train to the beach. That is
right.
I love that so much. Yeah. And I think it is stories like that that very much romanticize New York. And then I remember no one can afford to live there. And I said, oh yes. Thank you.
Like,
Thank
that's
you for
right.
that reminder, life.
Well, and then you take the train
like
home.
Labor Day love.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like then you take the train home and you're very much like hit with reality and it's like disgusting again and you're like sweaty and covered with sand and you're like, oh yeah, this is just like it's a little fantasy.
That is very true. I forgot about the fact that you do in fact have to ride a train home after being exhausted and sunburned and covered in sand. That does really kind of take away the mystical vibes of it. But I do love a little Labor Day treat of going to the beach. That is beautiful. Oh, I love that so much. Cody, how are you doing? I know I just talked to you yesterday, but the people don't know that.
I know, but yeah, now everyone knows. You're welcome, everyone.
Well,
I'm vibing. I am running out of happy things, I feel.
Fuck.
Also,
don't tell people that.
No, no, that's
coming
not.
Up on 6 years.
No,
you can't say that.
That's not true. I'm saying because I haven't done anything new very recently because I'm still on my keeping up with the Kardashians hole. So we're still on that journey. Nothing new has changed there, and that's all we're watching at this point. But I will say I did stumble across this stand-up special on YouTube that I really liked from Sunny Laprade. Laprade? Okay. I don't know. She's kind of been like popping off on TikTok a little bit. She's a trans woman and does like this full hour stand-up special that was fucking hilarious from top to bottom. And I also think she's a friend of the show, Ezra.
Oh shit, really?
I think so. I think they went to college together.
Okay.
But I highly recommend. It is a very hilarious time. A lot of like fun religious trauma jokes. A lot of small town jokes.
That's all you needed to say. Got it.
And gender stuff. It is top tier. It's called Queer Enough by Sunny Laprade. And it's on YouTube and it's for free. So have a fun time.
Did Ren sue?
Right, yeah.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I will need to write that down immediately.
Yeah, big fan. How are you?
Since the last week that I spoke to you all podcast friends, aka 24 hours since I talked to Cody.
Yeah.
I also had to kind of dig deep for a happy thing. Because most of the past 24 hours has been me just kind of deep in my West Wing rewatch and playing Civ. Just really positive mental health stuff. All the good things I do when I'm feeling very well. And so one thing that I did and was figure out, okay, what am I going to do to make myself and honor my inner child. And it was very much inspired by Bettina. As I was like, I'm craving something fucking sweet. What am I going to do? And I realized that I had all of the ingredients in my home for edible cookie dough.
Amazing.
Now, here's the thing. I am a slut for purchasable cookie dough.
Yes.
The stuff that you're not supposed to eat.
Yeah.
Wink. So what I did was I made edible cookie dough, but the right way. Like I microwave the flour, whatever the fuck. I don't care. But I was like, I'll just whatever. Anyways, it was very easy to do. Because I love to cook, but baking, you have to be like, listen, I'm a woman in STEM in my day job. It's like, I don't like to, but when I cook, I don't measure. I just do things by my heart. And baking, you have to, otherwise you can like really fuck stuff up, which is why baking has been hard. And so I followed it. I got out my teaspoons and tablespoons, and it was delicious. And I highly recommend doing edible cookie dough that doesn't actually make your stomach hurt afterwards.
Yeah.
So that is my happy thing.
And just a good life lesson.
It's just a good life lesson that you can microwave flour, which I'd never done in my entire life. And I didn't.
Oh, smart.
Eggs. So.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, I felt like a fool using my meat thermometer on flour, but you know what? If it means not getting sick, which, like, again, I don't care. I've eaten cookie dough my entire life.
If I get taken out by cookie dough, that's on me, okay?
Exactly. But it was very easy to do and very satisfying, because there's something about purchasing edible cookie dough that I find frustrating.
Sure.
Like, I'd rather just purchase cookie dough and be like, you know what, fuck it. But very simple, very easy, and I liked it a lot. So,
hell yeah.
Go team.
We love to see it.
Now, Bettina, when we were emailing, you had mentioned that you did not have a TMTM Twilight backstory.
Yeah, it like some...
would love to know more about that, and also know a little bit more about your relationship to the media, about Rob, Kristen, and the rest of the cast.
Totally. So yeah, like somehow, like I mentioned, somehow like I was very much like a Hot Topic teenager. Like that was my whole thing. Super emo, super into My Chemical Romance, like, you know, all of that. So like I should have been a Twilight diehard fan. Loved Robert Pattinson as Cedric Diggory,
yes.
But somehow Twilight just, it never happened for me. Like, everyone I was friends with was sort of obsessed, but I just, like, yeah, I just sort of, like, observed it from afar, but never got too into it.
That is good. Good, proud of you. I'm very proud of you. Have you, since middle school, since high school, have you still stayed on the periphery, or have you dabbled at all?
I always feel like I've dabbled in that, like, I think I watched New Moon or something for the first time, like, 3 years ago, and I was like, okay, that was, like, truly an experience. And I was a little sad that, like, I didn't get into it in the height of it, right? Because I feel like everyone has such a rich sort of, like, Twilight personal lore and backstory and, like, have all these jokes around it. And I was just like, oh, yeah, this would have been fun. But, like, getting into it as, like, a 29-year-old at the time, I was like, you know, maybe this is not the time in my life for this.
Right, sure.
Right. That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, I have a feeling, based on your mentions of being chronically online, that you have some experiences with Rob and Kristen and the media that they have created. Could you talk to us a little bit about the later movies that they have done post-Twilight, or the mistakes that they have made, a la Rob's pasta?
I think that I'm always just like, I feel like, you know, I think like my intro to Rob was like Cedric Diggory, right? And I felt like I was ahead of the curve on that one, and then he sort of like became so huge and just sort of like so bizarre. And so every so often I do sort of fall into a hole where I like watch every single, you know, like interview that he does, and he's clearly just like making shit up, or like like not being very serious and like kind of lying. So yeah, I would say like I mostly keep up with Rob. I can't say it's like that niche, but I do love the video where he like goes to search for the hot dog. I do love sort of like, I do love my little sort of like fall down the Rob rabbit hole.
Yeah, he's one of our greatest living chaos agents, you know? Like,
I cannot...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you...
I feel so bad for any sort of like new journalist, and I don't know, but I feel so bad for any sort of journalist that has to go to a press junket with him. And you have to imagine that whether they know about Rob or whether they don't, that any time you go to a press junket with him, you have to be like, oh God, this is like going, you know, anything that he says is going to be a lie. So you have to be prepared with like 20 different questions depending on how he answers. because it's all going to be riddles.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like like when I watch those videos, I do feel bad because I'm like sometimes like, okay, this journalist is taking this way too seriously, and this man is not here for it.
Absolutely, yes. That is one of my favorite things. Seeing him, all of the things that he did for the Batman with his pasta crimes, which I would imagine, given your relationship to the eater, that had to have been a topic of conversation. Is that correct?
I was not at Eater yet when that happened, and I think so this happened in May 2020.
God,
I feel like somehow, right? I was at Vice, and I think that like it came up, but I think we just like we didn't end up covering it or anything. But yeah, it was definitely a thing. I was not expecting Robert Pattinson pasta to sort of be a combination
right.
that came up in my life.
It is a mess there. That is something that I've been very surprised by and very grateful for, personally, for us, is that Rob and Kristen have been able to break out of the impressions, I think, that they were made on the public by the Twilight movies, and continue to do not just projects that they were very interested in, but projects that have been able to make a massive impression on the public eye. Mm-hmm. Thinking a lot about the Princess Diana movie that we covered with Kristen. Mm-hmm. And I think that so many people were like, how dare you put Kristen in that? And being able to look at that work, and Cody and I just talked about it forever, being like, no, actually that was the best choice to do. So it
totally.
has been wild.
I mean, I feel like the thing with them is that, like, the thing I, like, really respect is that I feel like both of them sort of ended up at such a sort of, like, weird public image where, like, so many people sort of gave them shit for Twilight that it was almost, like, only up from there. Yes. And so I feel like I like that they've, like, both really taken risks, that it's, like, actually kind of worked out, I think, for the most part for both of them.
I 100% agree with that. I'm very curious to see what they are going to do next. And I think that it's allowed for them to be very, I don't know, just creative and kind of not give a fuck. I mean, we're seeing that now with Kristen doing that haunted ghost show. That they're like, you know what, sure, whatever.
Yeah, just do some weird shit. Yeah, have fun.
Yeah. It's...
Also, I feel like I just have to... Oh, sorry.
No, please.
I was just gonna say, I feel like I have to put in a plug for the underwater movie that Kristen did. Because I just I love an underwater horror movie, and I feel like that one was just like really. It was a like very good version of the that sort of classic trope of like people being caught underwater and like some crazy shit happens. And I thought she did a really good job, and not enough people appreciate that movie enough.
Hard agree.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. Truly the only flaw is that TJ Miller is in it. Everything else, perfect.
For real?
But, like, he died pretty quickly, yeah. I think, right? Like,
not quickly enough.
It was not an overwhelming presence.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely not overbearing, which is great. But yeah, that movie is, I think because of when it came out and stuff, it kind of was easy to just not be on the larger radar of things, but it's a fun flick. I love it.
I love that movie
totally.
Too. It was being able to see her with that kind of like buzz cut.
Ah, yeah.
And I think if I remember correctly, it starts off with her like brushing her teeth, and in a like tank top, and I was like, oh fuck. Okay.
This is gonna be a problem.
Already, that's all you needed to show for me, actually. I'm sold.
Yeah, it's like, it was very like, do I want to look like this? Do I want to be her? Do
Honestly,
I want to date her? Like, it was like sort of the epitome of that look.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was, and I think that's my hope, and this is it reminded me a lot of when I saw, my brain is forgetting what this was called. It reminded me a lot of when I saw, is it Alien? Yes, Alien, mm-hmm. for the first time. Like when I saw Sigourney Weaver, and I was like, damn, do I want to look like her? Do I want to be with her? And that is how I felt watching Underwater. And I hope at some point more people do end up watching it.
Yeah.
That is my hope.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an underwater truther. I feel like
Good.
I need to push
Yes.
it.
There are dozens of us.
I'm so glad that someone with your platform is using it for good in the world.
Thank you.
We need more of you out in the world. I am so glad that we were able to have you on to talk about Cha-Cha Real Smooth. Had you seen this prior to us reaching out to talk about this film?
No, I hadn't. It was like on my long list of things to watch, but then like you reached out and I was like, okay, I'll move it to the top of the list.
Nice.
Okay. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts about this. And Cody, I remember when we had first talked about this that you knew Cooper's name.
Yes.
Right? Can you remind me why you knew his name?
Why I know this man.
Who is this man?
Who is this man? This kid. So I watched his first movie, Shithouse, which came out probably end of 2019, early 2020. And that was when he was a festival darling at the time, because he was probably freshly 21, 22 maybe when that movie came out, and he was I wrote it, directed it, and I'm starring in it. Come at me. And I made it for $15,000. So this is my movie. And it's a very simple, nice kind of college movie of following this one dude throughout a college frat party or something. And it's really sweet or whatever. So that kind of established him for a lot of Sundance bigwigs and all these Hollywood people being okay, this kid's got something, he's just gonna do this whole thing, and also seeing him do this kind of again in the same way of writing, directing, also starring in it, now with Dakota Johnson and actual budget and purchased by Apple TV for the most amount of acquisition money I think from Sundance at that time or whatever. It's okay, this guy's maybe serious, but he's also this kid who's just making movies. So I think I like him a lot. I think he's got a nice charm to him in the indie scene, which I appreciate.
What I didn't expect, I know that we had talked about the trailer before. Mm-hmm. What I forgot until I watched this last night, he's hot.
Yeah.
And that is annoying.
It's kind of fucked up. Yeah.
Because he's supposed to be this 22-year-old flop who doesn't have his shit together, but is surprisingly not an asshole.
Yeah.
And that is hard to reckon with.
No one should look that good in a vest that says meat sticks. You know what I mean? That just seems kind of fucked up.
Right. I will say, dear friends, it is going to be hard to talk about this film, without talking about ableism and miscarriage. So, if those are not cool for you, love you, talk to you later.
Yeah.
Just gonna say that right now. Bettina, what did you know about Mr. Shithouse Cooper Raiff going in, and obviously Limelier, Dakota Johnson, and going into this movie?
Okay, so I had never heard of Cooper Raiff before. I love Dakota Johnson. I love the Limelier.
Yes.
But yeah, for some reason this movie is it was one of those movies that everyone was talking about, saying it was good, and then it sort of dropped off my radar. Mm-hmm. But I feel something about the combination of the name and the people in it, every time I try to call to mind, before watching it, obviously, every time I tried to call to mind what it was about, I was no clue, completely blacked out. When you, and especially because you emailed me about it, I was I had convinced myself briefly it was a vampire movie, and I was then I started watching it, I was this is completely different than what I expected.
Yeah.
Now,
but I do love Dakota Johnson.
If Andrew was a vampire, this would make this movie hilarious.
Yeah, the movie's so good.
Oh,
I mean, God. I also think that I think something about the name, I was expecting it to be much more comedy.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's it's surprisingly heavy.
Yeah. Especially to, like, the conceit of it. It's like, ooh, party
it to be
starter.
So happy. And to find out, like, because I think that was the main thing I knew, was that Andrew got done with college, was going to be a party starter at both bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs. And I was like, great, I love this. I'm so excited to watch a happy movie. It's not a happy movie.
No. I regret to inform you all.
It's funny. There's quite a bit of funny parts in this. It's not a happy movie. And that's a very important distinction to make.
Yeah.
It's very good, though. And I'm very glad that I watched it. And I think that, surprisingly, there's a lot of movies that we watch and discuss on here that are not good movies.
Yes.
I feel like this is surprisingly one of the very few that are good movies. And that is refreshing. But it's also not happy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I kind of kept feeling like it was going to sort of take a turn to, like, being, you know, having a, like, happier ending, or just, like, being more light, and then it sort of never really did that.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that I disliked it. I liked it, but I was just like, oh, okay, this is just going to keep being sort of like this coming of age, like, shit kind of sucks situation.
Which is very, I don't disagree with. I think when I think about, like, coming out of college, being 22, that sounds right.
Yeah.
That sounds fair. And so I get it. But I think that I should have known about 4 minutes into this when, like, 12-year-old Andrew gets done with, I think it was a bat mitzvah. And he goes to that party starter, Bella, and is like, hey, I know that you're, like, 20, but I'm in love with you.
Right. Let's make this work.
Homie, no. And I'm just sitting on my couch dying from secondhand embarrassment. That's when I should have known.
Yeah.
This was not going to be good.
The trajectory of this film. It's
right.
Because
it kind of laid out the whole thing from there of, like, hey, Andrew likes older women and doesn't like happiness. And yet I was like, let me just see how this movie goes. Maybe it'll change. I will say I feel like there should have been a warning for the jump scare that is that guy from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh my god, when he came up.
Oh, that's where he's from. I was like, this guy looks so familiar, if that makes sense.
Because that dude, I mean, I'm glad he's still getting work.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right? We've got a lot of, like, Jewish energy here. That's what I associate him with. But he has such a distinctive voice, and I will always associate him with Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah. And the fact that he's, like, this perfect encapsulation of, like, the one-step parent that you're like, oh, he sucks so bad, but, like, my mom seems happy, but, like, we all just have to deal with this, but he sucks, is so good. It's so
like,
good.
you're not abusive, you're not really a dick, you're just weird, and I don't like you.
Yeah.
So
you just have, like, bad vibes, and it sucks.
Right. Have either of you been to a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah?
Oh, man.
I have not.
I have been to several in my day.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cody, are these accurate? Is this true to form?
Honestly, I would say, yeah. I went to a, like, majority Jewish middle school and high school when I was, like, 13 in New York, so obviously it was, like, a lot of big party situation going on there. And they go so fucking hard. It is truly insane. I would say these are pretty accurate. Obviously, like, the music and stuff would be different from, like, when I was a 13-year-old, but you know what I mean?
They didn't play WAP when you were in middle school?
Right. But, like, the spray t-shirts, the just very elaborate dances, the party starters, all of it's very, the very judgy parents in the background being like, my party is better than your party. You know what I mean? I felt very seen, heard, represented as a bar and bat mitzvah attendee for, like, a full year of my life.
That is one, that's very helpful to know.
Yeah.
Because when I was watching this, I was like, damn, these look so expensive.
Yes.
And knowing that now and seeing the parents in these movies, what I really wanted after this was the TLC's 4 weddings, but for bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs.
Oh my god, that would be so good. That's like a show made for me.
And I know that would be very unhealthy for the children.
Yes.
And I still want it.
Right. However, that would be good content.
I still think it would be absolutely hilarious.
Uh-huh. Oh my god, that would be hilarious.
I have never wanted a sprayed t-shirt, an airbrush t-shirt, more than watching this movie.
They're so sick.
Yeah, that was a really good scene. I really wanted one as well. I feel like I always was jealous of people who got those.
Because I feel like that's always you go to the beach and they have them there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to know that you had someone at your party, you're doing it indoors.
Right.
All, so everyone is huffing those fumes. Is very cool to me.
Oh,
I love that very much.
Yeah, that scene is really powerful too, because obviously it like comes from a very traumatizing thing that just happened, but the way they're all like kind of walking out in like a really kind of badass way in these like spray puff t-shirts is very good.
It's so cool because there's promotional, I think they released them as like teaser photos, and then it's in the trailer where Dakota Johnson playing Domino is in that shirt, and it's like, what? Why? Why is she in that shirt? And then you get more of the context in the movie about why. I'm very curious to know your feelings on Dakota Johnson playing Domino, Lola's mom / what Andrew thought was a French au pair.
Right. I think she was really compelling in this. I think obviously we've seen her kind of do more like the mother roles, right?
Just so weird.
Which is like an interesting pivot for her, for sure. But especially this being like a younger mom, and especially a mother who had a child very, very young, and sort of still like figuring out what it even means to be an adult, but also taking care of a child and being your full responsibility and like figuring shit out. I think it's like a good medium for her because she's still like very easily readable as like young and like a 20-something and like party, whatever. But I think like the maturity that she brings to stuff is really cool. And especially in this role, which is like super complicated. It's kind of this nice middle ground for her to be like in both of those worlds in a way that like really makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah, like I think it's interesting that she's sort of ended up in her like playing a single mom era, like because I feel like I don't know. I feel like it's interesting that she was in, what was it, The Lost Child? Is that what it was called?
The Lost Daughter.
Yeah,
yeah.
That. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was like sort of so recent, and then to see her sort of play like a similar role again, I thought she did a really good job. I think I don't know. I think maybe this is because I'm at that age where I'm like confused about how old people look because I can't tell how old I look anymore. But I think like she is. I think she was supposed to be 32, and she like is 32 in real life. But just seeing her and Cooper Rafe, I was like, did they like? I don't know. In my head, they just didn't look like they had the right age difference between them. Like I was not seeing her next to him and being like, oh yeah, this is definitely like an older woman, you know?
Right.
But I think once I just have to keep reminding myself of that. But you know, I think she really worked in the role.
I was really glad with how Dakota played Domino. I was very worried, I think about 10, maybe 15 minutes into the movie, when I saw Domino and Lola off to the side at the first party. And knowing that Lola was autistic, I immediately went to what usually happens in movies of it is a neurotypical actor playing neurodivergent. And I was like, fuck. I was like, no, I'm out of this. And then to find out that I think her name is Vanessa. Yes. Is autistic. Changed. And I was like, damn, this actress is really good. And then to find out that she is autistic, I was like, okay, that changes, one, how much I appreciate this movie. because it became very clear that she's obviously acting. But there were a lot of mannerisms that she was doing that felt very ingrained and is harder for a neurotypical actor to fake. Because it will come off weird. But I appreciated that Domino was treating her like her daughter, and the movie wasn't necessarily about it wasn't going to be about Domino and her experience having an autistic daughter, which is what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
It still ended up being about Andrew, which is fine. Like, that's what the movie's about. I was very worried it was going to be like, oh, I'm Domino. I had a child too early, and now she's autistic. Like, poor me. Which is not
It definitely steered away from, like, the quote-unquote how hard it is to, like, you know, raise an autistic child or a neurodivergent child. Because, like, that's the one thing that she is, like, the most sure of in her relationships. Like, her relationship with Lola is, like, the most solid thing here. And the fact that it's not just, like, this thing that usually happens, which is like, oh, it's such a burden or it's such a terrible, like, experience, which is obviously not true, but, like, a lot of people depict it that way, is, like, because that is already so, like, they know each other and have this thing that's, like, already so solid in comparison to, like, everything else is chaos, you know?
And Domino seemed very adamant throughout the movie, which I appreciated, that her issues with relationships are, one, her issue. Yeah. But also, it's her issue with commitment and not anything to do with Lola. Mm-hmm. And I think that it would have been very easy, and has been in other movies, of, it's because I have a disabled kid. Right. And to just see, like, Lola's just vibing. I mean, Lola's having a lot of issues with, like, really shitty kids at her school. But, like, Lola's vibing. She's just chill.
She's got a very cool collection of potato mashers, which I'm honestly very jealous of.
Cool as fuck.
Her room is so sick.
Yeah, that was a cool collection.
Yeah. Made it a lot easier to enjoy this movie for me. Though I was very curious why she was 12 and she had a sitter, but we didn't get a lot of explanation about how, I think it was, that part I was very confused about, but whatever. It's fine. Yeah. I think it might have just been about, like, company rather than support with other things.
Yeah, that was sort of my read on it, too.
I think that was not necessarily explained earlier on, but I think once Andrew started hanging out over there, I was like, okay, I think I got this, so. I got you. I would love to know your thoughts on the otter pop scene.
The otter pop scene.
Where she... who is not an ASMR person.
Sure.
I would also have liked a jump scare. But I did... I wanted to know your thoughts on whether you thought it was Cooper Raiff being intentional on making Dakota have some of the lime otter pop.
I do love this conspiracy. That is hilarious, of being like, oh, you're allergic to limes. Go try this.
Oh, I didn't even put this together.
Yeah, she started with the blue one.
Right.
Right? She had what I imagine is blue raspberry, and she was like, my tongue's blue. But then they swapped. And I find, listen, okay, green can be different flavors.
Sure.
I understand that. But typically, it is lime.
Yeah. So, that is very funny.
Incredible.
Yeah.
She did.
Honestly, a visionary.
And I just want to know, did Cooper know? Was he in on the bet? Because it was very hard for me to stay paying attention to that scene and not be like, interesting. Interesting choice there, sir.
Could have been any other flavor.
Yeah, no,
could have been cherry.
I feel like he has to be in on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's too online enough to not know the bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be so funny, though. If he was just like, hey, let's do a swapsies. Let's give you a line.
Because it was just so... And I think that is something for... Andrew is a mess throughout all of this.
Yeah.
of like, I'm gonna go pine for my girlfriend Maya, who is very clearly way more competent than I am. She's in Barcelona, finishing her Fulbright, and is like obviously met a man there. She's like killing it.
Yeah, and
is still having this like weird, like friends with benefits situation with, I don't remember her name. I want to say
it was similar to Maya, which was confusing.
I agree.
Oh wait, it was Macy.
Macy,
Thank
yes.
you.
Okay.
Like the store.
Yes.
Who, Macy, underrated character.
Yeah.
But had some very existential lines of like, do you think that I've peaked? And I think that we've all asked ourselves that at 22. And then we see Andrew with a 32-year-old mother who's theoretically engaged to a man who works in Chicago, ?
Right.
And he's swapping spit with her with Otter Pops, and it's like, how do you expect this man to not get attached? He works at the mall. Like,
right. he's down
you
bad.
You're presenting him with a life.
He's looking for any excuse to like go back to like high school and college and those days and like figuring shit out and having all these terrible choices. And also his scenes with Macy are so interesting because like those are when he gets like the real reality checks, you know, like he is in sort of this fantasy world with Domino and stuff of being like, maybe, you know, this could be my life. But with Macy, he's like, oh, this girl that like I was obviously attracted to in, you know, math class or whatever. I'm gonna sleep with her because I'm just like back in my hometown and like saving up to maybe go to Barcelona, even though that's definitely not gonna work or be a good thing that I do. And her just being like, yeah, I don't really want to do this again. Like, you're cool. Like, it's cool that we're like friends again or whatever. But like, this is not. I just kind of wanted to see because like that's kind of what you do when you're 22 and you're back with one other person that you knew from high school and being like, yeah, I guess like let's try it. We're here. We're the only two people here. Like
Macy, who without prompting is like, I'm actually not attracted to you, Andrew.
Right. And never was.
Macy unprompted is like, I don't dream of labor. I loved her. I thought she was great.
Yeah, she's a star.
Yeah, I feel like that actress is always sort of like the sleeper hit in like everything she's in. Like I feel like she's always a side character, but she's always very good at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
She's got a very cool charm to her.
Wild because Andrew is playing house, and his like fantasy here, there's the things that are happening to him are very real. Mm-hmm. He's trying to play house with someone who just had a miscarriage.
Yeah.
He's having a really kind of like is in a relationship that's very tested and is sitting but is more so a companion to her daughter who was autistic and is experiencing, and not just that, but like is experiencing a lot of ableism at the, not just at her school, but at these parties as well. Mm-hmm. And that is where he's like, is this, should I settle down at 22?
It kind of seems like a good idea.
For me? But the reality checks that he gets is when he's with Macy, doing things that you would consider are, quote, like, normal for a 22-year-old, of, like, going to, like, get drunk and have sex with her.
Yeah.
Very odd. Very odd little man.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting story.
I think, like, one thing I liked about this movie a lot was, like, I feel like there's a lot of, like, the high school movie or, like, just after graduating high school. And I feel like there's not a lot of things that are, like, thinking about or, like, exploring that, like, weirdness of having just graduated college. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that was something that I really liked, just being like, oh, yeah, this is, like, a totally weird period of upheaval in your life, but also we don't see it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree. We often do see that with high school, and I think that transition after college is just as awkward, but is not shown as much, because the way that those like after college movies, if they're made, is like, oh, I just got a job and everything's perfect, the end.
Right. That's not, I did it. Everything's good now.
That's not how it works for a lot of people. The way that I appreciated this was him very much having a difficult time interviewing for
that
nonprofit.
I think it's ASL.
and showing things that show that this transition is hard, of like when he has that breakdown at a gas station. And there's only been a couple times I've seen this happen in movies, when a character has a breakdown at a gas station.
It hits different.
I love it so much. I think I know it happens in The Fault in Our Stars, and I think it happens in 50-50 too. God, it's so good. And then when I think after he says goodbye to Domino at the school, he's like crying in the car while it's raining, and I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like, that's the real transition after college.
Yeah. Oh my god. His relationship with his little brother too is so good and real.
The brother was very sweet.
The brother's so good, and he's just like so nervous and like wants to kiss his girlfriend and is just like trying to get advice from his older brother, and realizes that his older brother really isn't as cool as he thought he was, and that adults also kind of suck and like have their problems and are kind of losers. And it's just like, but like has this obviously like adoration and respect, and it's just like see that kind of crumble, but like in a real way that's like, oh man, we're all just figuring it out, it's okay. Like, it's so good.
I don't know, I feel like as someone who, like, my sibling is like 8 years younger than me, so seeing like them have this sort of like big age gap in their like sibling relationship just felt really relatable. But also just that feeling of like, you know, like you're always, especially when your like younger sibling is so much younger, like you're always trying to have the patience to like, you know, answer all the questions and like be the sort of like role model figure. And like I think that like those times that you sort of like let it crack, that you're like annoyed or don't have time for it, are just like really hard on both sides, because it sort of like shatters this like weird illusion of you as the like, you know, the like go-to role model.
Yeah. And the fact too that like when he's giving him all these like tips of how to have the perfect first kiss or whatever, and he gets upset and he's like, all that shit was made up, like I don't know anything, I'm a loser, I don't know how to do anything, just figure it out, whatever. And you know, this brother like goes to this bar mitzvah thing and like tries to do that same thing, you know, even though they had this falling out and it was kind of like an emotional thing. But he was like, I mean, that advice did kind of seem good, even though he was it didn't seem like he just like pulled it out of his ass, but like, I'll try it, you know. It was like so sweet.
I love their relationship so much. I don't understand it. I'm an only child, so it makes no sense to me. But one of the parts that I loved the most was near the end of the movie, when the little brother was supposed to come up and get stuff out of Greg's fridge, and he was supposed to tell the whole story about how his like first kiss went, and he was like, I'm just a little heartbroken too, because fucking Andrew's gonna be moving out. And I was like, that's cruel. And I love it a lot. I would be remiss, and I think that we would be remiss, if we did not talk about the titular cha-cha slide scene. Because I was waiting on bated breath if they were going to use the cha-cha slide in this movie, because the fact that they had the budget to use music in this movie,
right?
And to find out that they use the cha-cha slide and that's when the fight scene TM happens, was truly everything I could have hoped for.
Yeah, true chaos on all cylinders in a really beautiful way.
Just an absolute, like, everyone is punching everyone.
Just throwing hands.
Kind of thing. Is so... That is everything I could hope for at a party.
And Andrew being, like, drunk off his ass and, like, not knowing what he's doing and is so late to start the party. Like...
Yes. Everyone would be talking about that party for the rest of time.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like, oh god, it's so good.
Yeah, it was perfect. I think like at that scene I wasn't like, my attention was flagging a tiny bit, and then I sort of heard the music coming in, I was like, okay, shit is actually going down now. So I thought that was like a perfect usage of it. I felt very much like the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing meme, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love this movie. I did not expect to end the film liking Joseph. And I don't, maybe liking is too generous, but I think that what I didn't expect was near the end of the movie, having an appreciation for him, in that, like, scene, the exchange that they had in the car, when Joseph's like, hey, bud, thanks for taking care of my family, and then Andrew just, like, drives off and just, like, cries.
Yeah, and Andrew's just like, I'm sorry, I'm just like a little kid, and he's just like, yeah, I know. Like, it's
and
so
that's the
real.
thing, right? It's like, Joseph's not a bad guy. He's not, like, their relationship isn't great, but it's not bad.
Right.
They're just doing what works for them. And I think that Andrew, by that point, realizes, like, I'm just not, this is not for me. I'm not in this whole situation. And that is so heartbreaking. And Joseph obviously is like, yeah, you're just a babe. You had to find that out on your own.
Yeah.
Goodbye. I'm very glad that I watched this movie.
Yeah, I think, like, when... Oh, sorry.
No, that was my main thought. I was just going to take a very heavy sigh. It was just a heavy film.
Yeah, I mean, I think that scene sort of, for me, like, really I think this movie had, like, a lot of kindness to it that I liked. Like, you know, I think there's a way that relationship, you know, Joseph and Andrew's relationship could have been, like, really shitty, or, like, that he was meaner to him. But I think there was just sort of, like, people were giving each other grace to sort of fuck up in life. You know, even with, like, sort of, like, Andrew's mom and, like, his family. Like, everyone's very kind and sort of, like, forgiving. And it was just a very, like, I don't know, it was a wholesome movie, and I really enjoyed it, even though I also just wasn't expecting this sort of heaviness of it.
I think that is a great point. That it is a movie about the kind of, like, grace that's needed during that transition. That not just Andrew's going through, but I think that a lot of the characters are going through in that time. And I don't know that I've seen a movie cover not just Andrew's transition period, but, I mean, fuck, like, his mom, and the talk that they have at the end of, like, hey, I'm so glad that you're happy right now. Like, when was the last time that you saw a dude, like, have a good relationship with his mom? Never.
Yeah, right.
And so I'm just glad that it is a heavy movie, but it is worth watching, and I'm glad. I'm glad that it exists.
Yeah.
I'm also glad that we decided to watch this first, and I will need to keep it close to my chest, because next week we are watching the 2022 version of Persuasion.
Well.
Oh no.
And I will need to keep I will need to keep her acting in this very close to my chest to remember she can, in fact, do this when she wants to. She just chooses not to at times.
Yeah. And that's, you know what, that's her right.
You are allowed to do that and still get paid for it, apparently. So next week we have the new Persuasion that is not, in fact, a Sarah Snook production. So hold on to your gourds, you know?
Yeah.
Get your petticoats.
Godspeed.
Thank you so much. Cody, we have some fantastic patrons to thank. Do you want to start us off?
Absolutely. Thank you to Katie Black.
Ooh, thank you to Kylie Minty.
Pew pew. Thank you to Alex Dornan.
Ooh, thank you to Carrie Goldberg.
Ow. Thank you to Rebecca Cullen.
Ooh, thank you to Jasmine Anastasia.
Pew pew. Thank you to Megan Pattinson.
Ooh, thank you to Cassandra O'Shea.
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 Thank you to Clara Belikov.
Ooh, thank you to Katya Cart.
Pew pew. Thank you to Hannah Dragomir.
Ooh, Thank you to Hope Castile.
Pew pew. Thank you to Rachel Ashford.
Ooh. Thank you to Emerson Kurova.
Ah. Thank you to Maddie Facinelli.
Ooh. Thank you to Samara Rinaldi.
Pew pew. Thank you to Genevieve Morgan.
Ooh. Thank you to Tess Avery.
Pew pew. Thank you to Danielle Burke.
Thank you to my mom, your mom, our mom, Kelly Beck.
Thank you to Sophia Salinger.
Thank you to Laura Forty.
Pew. Thank you to Dan Zeklos.
Ooh. Thank you to Maria Swan.
Pew pew. Thank you to India Peach.
Ooh. Thank you to Emily Ozera.
Ow. And last but certainly not least, thank you to Jaylene Ivashkov.
Hell yeah. I am waiting on bated breath to know what fan fiction you have brought to the space.
Okay, so I searched Timothy Chalamet vampire on Wattpad.
Incredible start.
Which felt kind of fitting. So I have one called The Eternal Seduction.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
In which Timothy is a vampire in the 19th century.
Wow.
Okay. I'm ready.
Yes. Okay, so how, like 100, 200 words?
Yes, I believe you. I believe
Okay,
in you.
sweet. Okay, so basically, context, this person's being followed down an alleyway, getting very concerned because their dress is dragging on rough, wet pebbles.
Ooh.
So I'll start right here. The man stops right before the moon can shine on his face. My breathing is labored as he considers taking another step. I reiterate my point more forcefully. What do you want from me? Is it my coins, my dress, or are you the person who has been killing innocent? He steps into the moonlight, halting my sentence dead in its tracks. He was an astonishing type of beauty. He was slim, but not too much to be worried about if he was eating well or not. His hair curled into perfect ringlets, and his skin a magnificent pearl shade. He admires me with his mouth agape as I do to him. We gaze at each other briefly before he breaks the eye contact. Your hair is beautiful, such a fiery, grand color. He slowly walks towards me, but I do not back away this time. What is your name? Rose. And yours? He smiles, revealing his beautiful teeth, so sharp but dainty. His beauty almost made me forget he was just killing a man. Timothy. He looks back at the man, and a sense of urgency returns to him. He grabs me by the shoulders tightly. Listen, this may come as a shock to you, but I am a vampire. And we can leave it right there.
Wow. Mic drop.
I 100% believe that he is a vampire.
Yeah.
In real life.
I mean, I feel like if they were doing like an interview with a vampire remake, he would be like right at the top of my list for casting.
The fact that they didn't cast him in the... Cody, is it on AMC right now?
I think it's AMC, yeah, where the show is.
The fact that they didn't cast him in that is criminal, and I think it's only because the fact that he's in, like, Dune has got their clutches.
Right, yeah. he's
so
Dennis Villeneuve's boy now.
Yeah. That is haunting. Thank you so much for bringing that to the space. I have to imagine that we have got some major Timothy Chalamet fans in this space. So you've really given them something to feed off of here. I love that.
Yeah.
Bettina, it has been an absolute honor to have you. Where can folks go to support your work?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Bettina Mac, BettinAMak. And I'm on Instagram as CrispyEgg420.
Yes.
God bless.
It's a perfect follow if you want a great timeline break and some beautiful, beautiful videos and photos of delicious food. And also shit posts. Great shit posts.
Need a reminder of like, damn, I've been really hyperfixating. This is not a fucking shout to myself, but damn, I've been really hyperfixating on PB&J because I don't know what to eat. And then you look at Crispy Egg 420 and it's like, here's the literal most beautiful food you've ever seen in your life. And it's like, oh, There is other food exists. That's right. Okay. Got it.
Yes.
Thank you. It's like my internet space when I just want to go like fully head empty, you know, and like not even really think about like captions and like being too much of a presence online. I just like to drop a photo and then I sort of like sink back into the wall like the Homer.
Yeah. Listen, sometimes it's no thoughts, just egg, you know, and that's a great way to be.
Exactly.
It's just like, I love that people were like, you shouldn't get on Instagram and take photos of your food. And you were like, you know what? Fuck you. Actually, I'm going to take the prettiest photos you've ever seen. You were like, all right. Okay.
Thank you.
It's amazing. I'm so glad to have had you here. Folks, please watch Cha Cha Real Smooth. We are not sponsored by Apple TV, but hey, we can be bought. Amazing stuff. We are so sorry that we are going to make you watch Persuasion next week.
But we're in this together. So.
Yeah, you know what? It's fine. You know what? Take care of yourselves. And until next week, as we say in the Pacific Northwest,
Get bit.
And get wit.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Into the Twilight is an Earbud Media production. You can follow us on Twitter at Into the Twilight or on TikTok at Into the Twilight Show. You can find me at Cody Corral on Twitter and Allie at Alexandria Does. And you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Into the Twilight. We have merch, so much stuff. All those links are in the episode description. And make sure to rate and review us on your favorite podcast hosting platform. It really helps the show. Thanks. Bye.
You've been listening to Earbud Media Production. Earbud Media, audio for everyone.